How are you, Daniel, today?
Hey Kevin, I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to thank you so much again for your time, for coming on. This is honestly amazing for medical students that just want to see people that are where they're at and they're kind of just tripping. They're like, what should I do right now? And just hearing your amazing stories is really helpful. So thank you for coming on. I just wanted to ask you super generally, what does your Harvard Medical School, especially medical degree, mean to you? And what kind of brought you to getting this medical degree and pursuing medicine?
Yeah. First of all, happy to be here. I would say the first thing that really got me interested in medicine is, just my experiences growing up. So I grew up in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and sort of growing up and seeing the lots of inefficiencies in the healthcare system and seeing ways that the healthcare system could be improved. I think I started to think about ways to improve that. Coming here to the U.S., which I came here during college, so I came here in 2014. Started thinking about, I guess, looking back home and thinking about ways to like improve the healthcare system compared to the U.S. But I think certain experiences I had, such as not being able to, like, for instance, afford basic healthcare at times, or and or understanding how healthcare like is inextricably linked to like one's socioeconomic status. So understanding how people in poverty were more likely to not be able to access healthcare. Those kinds of things got me thinking about big ways to be able to make an impact in healthcare. So that's sort of my overarching.
So you get to pick because you're first year, so this is just the information year. Is there like a specialization, maybe like public policy or something that you're looking towards going into?
Yeah, so there's no specialization per se. However, lots of students end up going into lots of different fields. There's opportunities to take an extra year or two to get another degree. Lots of students do with the MPH, the MD MPH program. I'm actually thinking of doing the MD MBA program, which is where I get my MD and MBA in 5 years instead of 6 years. And the goal there for me is to, start to learn about tools in business management and healthcare and like really understand larger systems. So I think to be able to make those kind of changes I want to make and the impacts I want to make in healthcare, I need to understand how the system works. And I think an MBA, for instance, will be able to equip me with the tools to do that. So.
So thanks, Daniel, for sharing that. I just wanted to know because you went to the University of the South, and then you had some gap years between your college experience, your undergrad, and medical school. You did a semester at Yale, and you did a summer program at Stanford. It was a business program. So I want to know, what did each of those steps and experiences mean to you, and what does your path look like from college to medical school?
Yeah, good question. So I went to college at Sewanee University of the South, which is a small private college in Tennessee. And this was my first time coming to the U.S. from Nigeria. So it was an interesting experience. I think coming here, I wanted to take advantage of a lot of the resources my school had, which thankfully did have many of them. So I found ways early on in my freshman year to sort of start to get interested in research, start to get interested in different organizations and school activities, just to figure out what my interests were, where my passions lied, to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. So I think, throughout my college experiences, certain summer experiences I had, for example, the Yale program I did. So I spent 2 summers at Yale, summer to my freshman year and summer after my sophomore year. And I had the opportunity to work with a psychiatrist who, took me under his belt and taught me how to do scientific research. Got the opportunity to get quite a bit of publications with him. And I think that was really that was really a learning moment for me because I learned how to read scientific papers, how to write, how to think through research papers critically. So that was very important for me. I think that got me early on interested in research. And then my summer after my junior year, I decided to do something else because I'd always had an interest in business and management and just like wanted to explore that option as well. So I decided to do the um, so, um, so I decided to do a program at the Stanford Business School. So this was a 1 month program where I was able to learn about business management, learn about just fundamentals of understanding how to run a business, how to be successful at running a business. And the reason I did that was to learn about how to eventually, you know, understand how the healthcare system works and understand how businesses work in general. Because at the heart of it, medicine is a business. So you need to be able to make a change in medicine. You need to be able to make a change in the business. So I wanted to learn that. So I think that was really an eye-opening opportunity for me because it was a short program, but it got me thinking about management, and I think it's one of the reasons why I'm now inspired while in medical school to take on the MD MBA program while I'm here. So I think overall my experiences, lots of different seemingly unconnected fields, really speaks to my desire to make an impact in some way or form. But I think being able to explore all those different avenues and opportunities has been able to like has made me become a better, I guess, critical thinker and a person who is willing to like make an impact in my community. So
It's kind of funny when you say medicine's a business because here it's like that in Canada, we just never think of it like that. It's you go to your doctor, you don't really pay. So it's interesting thinking about just the differences and maybe even across the border how medicine is seen. During those gap years, is there anything that went on? Like, what was your intuition behind taking those gap years?
yeah, so my reasons were quite a few for taking a gap year. So I'd taken the MCAT my senior year in college, and I did well on my MCAT, but I wanted to score higher because I knew some of the schools where I was going to be applying to were like top schools in the country, and I needed to be more competitive, especially as an international student applying. I knew my odds were lower, so I wanted to like do everything possible to make myself the strongest possible candidate. So I decided to take another year off. So I took 2 gap years, but I decided to take another year to just study for the MCAT while working full time. So it was on and off studying. I think probably I studied for like about 5 months in total. But I think that allowed me to like really focus on that and focus on my weak areas. Another reason was just to do more research. I like research. I spent my gap year in Atlanta, Georgia, where I did clinical research in a psychiatric research center. So I was working as a coordinator on lots of clinical trials, looking at depressions, anxiety disorders, things like that, and looking at sort of management and therapies for that. So, I think it was twofold: my MCAT as well as just strengthening my application and focusing on something I loved, which is research. So I think all of it worked in my favor eventually. So I definitely recommend if you want to and if you feel it can be useful for you for pre-med students to take a gap year or two.
What did it look like, applying through for the AMCAS, writing your essays, getting maybe recommendation letters from professors you haven't seen in 2 years? How was that process for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say first of all, it was a long process. It takes a whole year to apply to med schools, and it can be kind of exhausting overall. But I think if you power through it, you're gonna be good. I think I had started to think about my application early on, like right after I graduated. So even though I took 2 years off, I was still in contact with some professors. I made sure that the professors who wrote some of my recommendation letters knew me really well. For example, one of my professors was a psychology professor who co-PI'd a project, and that means basically she was a co-researcher on a project with me. I did in Nigeria, looking at like a mental health literacy curriculum and its efficacy in high schools. So it was a very significant project that took quite a lot of effort, took a lot of time, took a lot of money and funding. So I built a significant relationship with her that I kept going even after college, and she was able to write a strong letter for me. I also got letters from directors at Yale who had seen my work while I was there, people who are on my current job in Atlanta. So I think keeping relationships with people whom I had worked with and who I had known pretty well allowed me to like have a strong letters of recommendation. I think overall, thinking ahead or planning my application ahead was very important in making sure I didn't feel really stressed. So I think I started my personal statement like 6 months before it was due, just because I needed time to write the first draft, sit on it for a few months, and then go back and read it again to make sure it was strong. And then just have quite a few people read over it and make sure it was good and it really reflected who I was and what my story was about. So I think, given it time, making sure you plan every piece of the puzzle ahead of time, thinking about funding and finances, because traveling to schools for interviews can be quite a financial burden, especially if you're from a low socioeconomic background. So thinking about all those pieces can be very helpful. I know that might be different with COVID interviews being during the COVID times with interviews being online, but yeah, definitely think about all parts of the application before you go in.
And what did MCAT studying look like for you? Like, did you use a course? Did you use books? How did that look like?
Yeah, so like I said, I took the MCAT twice. The first time was in my senior year in college, and that time my school had offered me a free Kaplan course. where I was able to, for I think about 6 months, have a Kaplan tutor come to my college and, teach us like strategies and how to take the MCAT. I don't think that was really helpful for me, to be honest, because at the time I don't think I was even ready for the MCAT, and it just had so much going on in school with academics and like extracurricular activities. I couldn't really put a lot of my effort into studying for the MCAT. So I think what I did during my gap years, which was really focus on studying and looking at my weak area. So for me, a weak area for me was the CAR section, which is the verbal and critical reading section of the MCAT. The sciences, I always had a strong point. I was always pretty good with the sciences, so that wasn't too bad for me. But the CAR section, for some reason, I just constantly struggled with. So I spent a lot of my time really focused on like trying to learn how to dissect these passages, read faster, and like answer questions correctly. So I think it gave me the opportunity to really hone in on my weaknesses. I would say you don't need an expensive prep course to do well on MCAT. Like my second time around studying, I basically spent probably less than like $50 studying for the MCAT, just finding free resources online. I think I used the Reddit MCAT or Reddit Pre-Med, I don't remember what it's called, group, and they had lots of free resources on there. There's lots of free full-length MCAT exams that you can find from like lots of different prep companies like Princeton Review, Kaplan, I think there's Altius and UWorld, and lots of different ones these days that you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money on that. So I think finding the best ways to really focus on your weaknesses, but also finding low cost resources will be really helpful. I think final thing I'll say about MCAT study is do lots of practice problems. Like I think lots of people get stuck in just reading the content and reading the textbooks over and over again, and sometimes it's hard to really gauge your understanding when you have not done practice problems. So just do lots of practice problems and review them thoroughly. I think they will really help you, to get into the feel of the MCAT and like the way the AAMC likes to ask questions, and start to really improve your scores.
So now that you're in medical school, how is that looking like for you? How is your day-to-day schedule? I'm looking at your YouTube. You're showing off, waking up early, getting to the gym. I mean, how do you fit that all together with your YouTube channel, with the gym, with the social life, especially during a pandemic? What does your day-to-day life look like for you?
So that's a really good question. I would say, it takes a lot of time management and understanding what your schedule looks like. I started med school in August last year, 2020, and at first my schedule was really just taking, having like about 4 hours every day of classes, and then I'll spend the rest of the day preparing for class the next day. And the way the schedule works with HMS is that we prepare for classes the night before, and then come to class to discuss what we've learned, and solve problems in small groups with classmates, professors. So it's a really helpful learning experience. I spend the rest of my day beyond that a lot of times going to the gym, which I found is a really good escape from all the craziness and busyness of school these days. I like to lift and I'm quite into bodybuilding. So it's something I've been doing for quite a few years, and it's just for me a good escape from the craziness of med school. And yeah, I spend the rest of my other time. I spend my other time just like hanging out with classmates. So right now I'm currently in Boston. I spent my last semester in Atlanta doing remote school, and now while I'm here in Boston, I'm still mostly remote. So a lot of our learning happens online. So we have to just get on a Zoom call and talk to our classmates.
Right. Yeah. I saw your video. You had like pre-readings, and then you were doing the Anki. You were just kind of memorizing the info before you went to lecture. I saw from your YouTube channel.
So Anki is a really good tool for learning because I think it uses the idea of spaced repetition and allows students to really learn and be able to see the material they're being taught multiple different ways and many different times, so they can like fully commit that to memory. I used that a lot last semester, although I would say this semester I've really not used a lot of Anki because of the way my class is set up this semester. I think it requires a lot more understanding than actually memorizing content. So I've really been focusing on understanding the concepts in the context of case presentations. So understanding a medical case and like how lots of different variables could change to understand a clinical situation. So we're learning about the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, and it involves quite a bit of physics. So it's something that's like hard to learn with Anki. So I think it's important to be able to refine your study methods based on what you're currently learning and what works best for you. So.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I've used it a bit. It's going well in like my anatomy course, but I can't use it for like physics, just like you mentioned. And something a little funny thought in my head, like these medical students on YouTube, all of them are waking up early to work out. So it's got me thinking, if I want to get into medical school, I need to work out more because it just seems like something everyone's doing.
It's a good way to keep healthy, I think. It's medical school can be very sedentary when you're sitting down all day, especially in Zoom. Sometimes you just need to like get your blood flowing and do something different. So it's great.
So with the pandemic right now and everything online, I see it kind of easing back into in person. But what kind of model are you using in medical school right now?
Yeah. So right now we're using a hybrid model. For Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, everything is on Zoom, virtual. But on Wednesdays, we get to see patients, and each student goes to the clinical side, gets to learn about how to ask patients questions in an empathetic manner, patient interviews, how to do the physical exam, which is an important part of diagnosing and like learning about what the patient might be presenting with. So learning how to percuss, how to auscultate, listen with your stethoscope, things like that. So it's really been a very exciting moment because seeing a patient, having them being able to connect with the patient, I feel like I'm becoming a doctor. So it's those small moments that really make a difference in feeling that. It's those small moments that make a difference in helping me feel that I'm one step closer to my dream of finally becoming a doctor, making an impact in people's lives.
Yeah, and I saw on your YouTube, you complimented your, I think called them lovely classmates. What does your community look like right now? Are you seeing your classmates, and is everyone like-minded? Everyone wants to be a doctor? Is everyone like very different with just this one shared path of medicine?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both alike and different in many different ways. We have what I'm very excited about with my class is that we have, lots of different students who are extremely smart, very passionate about lots of different things. We have people who have done PhDs, who have done MBAs, who have lived in different countries. Just people who have lots of different backgrounds and experiences, and we all have the shared passion of wanting to help patients. But I think at the same time, lots of students want to be able to pivot into other different opportunities. I think healthcare is a very large system, and seeing patients is not the only way you can help patients. You can help patients by making a large impact in the healthcare system. You can make impact by involved in policy changes that improve access to care for different people. So there's lots of different ways, and I think that's where I'm really blessed to be able to work with classmates who are very similar, like I said, but still have very wide-ranging interests that I can learn from.
One of the main things that I see about your experiences and what matters to you is co-founding the ELPIS initiative, which, as I understand it, is a mental health organization to reduce mental stigma, based in Nigeria. So what does that mean to you, and what is that initiative for you?
Yeah, so so ELPIS is a nonprofit, like you said, based in Nigeria, and it's been an organization I've been working with for the past 6 years. Right before I moved to the U.S. for college, and I think my initial interest in medicine came from looking at the state of mental health in my community in Nigeria, and just people with mental health issues were overlooked, were silenced by the communities, and a lot of times, and I had always been thinking of ways to improve that because I'm very passionate about mental health, having a family member who struggled with a mental health condition. So I wanted to really be involved in that space, so I got involved in that organization before I came to the U.S. And I think I've done a lot of work in psychiatry and starting a neuroscience club in college. Things that have really helped me to learn about mental health myself. So it's definitely something I intend to pursue long term. Psychiatry is one of the fields I'm potentially considering as I continue through medical school. So I definitely want to be involved in some way or the other in the mental health care system, not just in the U.S. but globally, and figuring out ways to improve that.
And that ties everything together really well. So are you saying that you want to in the future go in that area of maybe psychiatry? And you said you were doing research. What do you think your future would look like? Would it be like patient care, research, or a mix of both, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that right now. I definitely want to be involved in patient care. I love taking care of patients, and that's something I definitely want to be involved with in some way in the future. However, I also see myself doing something where I am able to make more of a larger change in healthcare systems. So maybe being involved in organizations is starting initiatives that are able to make more global impacts, but still being able to see patients. So I think there are lots of different ways you can combine both to be quite impactful at both. So that's something I'm still not 100% sure of what that's going to look like, but that's something I definitely want to explore going forward.
All right, so thank you, Daniel, so much for coming on the channel today and sharing your perspectives and your journey with medical students, pre-medical students everywhere that just want us to go down that path and help people in the ways they can. Everyone, please make sure you follow the Daniel Gabriel on YouTube. I'll put his channel link in the description. It's also in the corner right here to follow his medical journey. He has a bunch of more videos there, so please subscribe to him. And if you like this video, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel as well. I'm trying to make this into a series where we have amazing guests that are way ahead of us in different fields of medicine just come and talk about their experiences. So please stay tuned for that and take care.